Mind's Eye Visual Guitar Method here for another lesson today on dominant blues and ways you can quickly conceptualize this with some visualizations here. So, and just how to understand it, because that's what you're hearing when you hear somebody play. People understand this in whatever way that they understand it. This is like the basics. And you can hear how, yeah, the dominant blues, what you got to know how to do is change keys because each dominant chord is coming from its own key, but that's only one note changed. It's that crazy. So let's dive in. As we see here, we've got a master pattern on the fretboard screen here that you want to learn. This is a chord scale, or you might even say the arpeggios. Let me simplify it here so we can see it's just the arpeggios. But yeah, it is the arpeggios. But if you get lost, if you can get, if you get that acrobatic playing with these arpeggios, I can see how you could totally get, so absorbed in that. There's no other use for it. But chances are, if you learn that, you probably already went ahead and understood the blues as well. If these never stuck with you as they did with me, this may have never jumped out at you, something so basic and simple. So you want to learn this because you can pick out these really cool little simple patterns, come up with little scale runs, if you will. Oh, there's just so much to say about this. If you take a if you take a 3-note chord, to make a chord scale, you take, a chord, which is, you take a triad, which is 3 notes, and that's cool, but it leaves a kind of a wide open gap between the 5 back to the 1. You add in another stepping stone there as a chord tone. We use one of the sevenths, and you make a complete 7th chord, and it becomes, can be a little chord scale, or a 7th note arpeggio. So that being said, there's just so much about this you want to learn, but you can grab like your shapes out of this. You can hear also, once you play these shapes, learn to hear the intervals and what they're doing, but you'll also notice, I think, when you riff around, that this is different than riffing around in a scale. A scale sounds noodly and pointless, really. You try to do all this stuff with a scale and make it do all these crazy runs, it still kind of sometimes sounds like, yeah, cool, but what was that? Where you do this and you go, and there's a chime to the whole thing. So you can see that there's a whole bunch of musical passages to be made there because everything rings together because they're all chord tones. So it just really works because it doesn't get as boring as quickly to me as noodling around in some predetermined scale shape that's maybe not giving you any intervals what you want, and beyond that, just all you're knowing is a shape. You don't really know anything about the intervals involved in what you're playing, and of course it sounds meaningless and noodly. But here you can start to realize that when you're doing this shape, for example, that's going to be the 1 of what you're playing. You can always bring that line back home with bringing out the 1 and the 3 together a lot, especially if you went really outside. And speaking of going outside, that's when you can really learn playing outside. We're going to try a real simple idea of notes picked from the white area, and who knows what they are. I'm just going to go. All right, so that experiment didn't work right. Outside again. Now now I can start to go like, oh, okay, I can see like now in music what this call and response was. This is where they come up with this stuff and what I'm hearing. It's this very suggestive chord. Then this other place. So anyways, that's how you riff around in this and what you can do with this. But you want to get this into the blues. You're not going to play this one shape, but you can remember this basic pattern as long as you move it properly. So when the 4 chord comes, it's going to be, this is our 1 chord of the moment right now, and we'll just say it's G. So we know the 4 is underneath it, and that's going to be our new 1. So we have to play this scheme of notes that you see here with this note visualized back here. So now, you know, and you're not going to have this pattern to look at anyways, so that won't be confusing like that. You'll just have this in your mind's eye. You'll know, okay, I'm here. So, yeah, that's what you do. And then you add in your scale tones. You start with your simple steps, your most basic step. You put your 2 in there, and you can come up with some cool scales, like when the G is playing. Adds a little something to the scale tone just right, because you know now you're getting tasty with these scale tones versus just rambling over them in when they appear in a regular scale. It's like we're building the scale up brick by brick. The wall do we don't need no so you know, here I've got, you know, another safe note in there. After the 3, I put a 4 in there. Before the 7, I put a note that I really love. And now I can hear, now that I've been just plugging away at this dominant 7th game here of making music on just those chord tones, now I add in the 6 and I go, oh, okay, that's what that sounds like. That's what that is when I go. That's just the 7. Here comes the 6. It's got a little soul in it, man. The one I was playing is there, but I was up. What did I play here? B, a B major chord. Moving on. So you gotta adjust that. Now that would be the big way to learn this, and the great way to learn this, if you can mind's eye this pattern and just riff along this, you're good to go. However, there's a trick. So let's say that, oh, by the way, speaking of really outside color tones too, I've put this exclamation point right here as a note to know. That is the minor third, and that's a great trick you can play if you're really riffing on the chord tone. So if the G is going on here, all right, so that sounds cool, but it's getting a little basic. So I could also I went flat third back to 1, major third like I should have, exclamation point, yeah, yeah. So that's the value of putting the minor third, and that's what you always heard. Oh, you can play the minor third in the over a dominant chord, and that's kind of why, because it's got that flatted 7th, which is pulling the tonality kind of minor. And you know, not for nothing, but if you look at a minor chord, you know, you don't really realize this just by hearing it, and you hear people say, well, okay, well, you know, that works because this is related to a minor chord, but you think, well, okay, I guess I'll trust you on that. But take a look here. let's play the jazz minor chord, is what I call it, by playing the root. I'm on the G string here with my first finger, and I'm going to kind of play this like A chord shape using these two, or I could just bar it like that. Just play it like this. There's a couple ways you can play this, but anyways, where my plus sign is on the diagram, I'm at the root 7 minor third exclamation point and 5, the jazz minor, G minor. I think this, my tone is a little bass heavy here, so not really. So that being said, G minor, if you just take that one note and make it major, it's still kind of like that minor chord with a major third. Now you can see how it is related to minor. It's like a minor chord with a major third versus that being a major chord with a flatted 7. Kind of interesting to think of it that way. And so then you can understand why minor thirds would work and have that cool little effect there. So how to make this really, really, really easy. As a matter of fact, here's what the deal is. Your name just got drawn. You're at a jam night, and they're jamming all kinds of blues, and you came ready to play some minor blues. You can handle your typical, throw all your cool minor pentatonic licks in there because, that's kind of all you know. And you are called up, someone draws your name out of a hat, and they're like, all right, and you've been realizing all night they've been playing this bar band major 12-bar blues because you got to go to 12 bars and play that blues before anybody recognizes your name. Okay, it's not really, but anyways, 12-bar blues. And so it's dominant, it's major blues. So you're thrown out and you're like, I think I could play a major pentatonic, but I'm supposed to move it around. The root's going to change. I don't know this. You're looking pretty paranoid as you're getting ready to run up to the stage and embarrass yourself, and your friend sees what's going on. Luckily, you got a cool friend there, and they say, hey, man, just play the minor pentatonic that you know. And you're like, wait a minute, what do you mean minor pentatonic? If I play that, it's going to crash. I tried it before. It sucks. Minor pentatonic doesn't work over major blues. It's not how it works. He goes, no, man, this is the secret. You just find out what key they're playing in, and go a half or a whole step up from there and play the pentatonic there. You'll be fine. Really, man? Oh my God. Go, go, go. Get up there. They're waiting for you. Oh my gosh. You run up there and the blues starts. So here I am with, they say G blues. Hey, what's the key in, man? Oh, it's going to be G, young whippersnapper. Oh my gosh. Okay. See how it sounds over the fretboard. All right, that'll work. Okay. Huh? None of your cool blues licks work. What do you mean minor pentatonic? But it's still, you were, in for the solo. You kind of sounded like, all right, there's Jim. He didn't play any bad notes. See you later for Jim. Yeah, everyone give him a round of applause. And next, please. And nobody remembers who you are, and probably for good reason, because they're like, yeah, that was inside, but sounded like the guy didn't practice or didn't know exactly what was going on. And you didn't. You just knew that minor pentatonic, a blank palette of scale pattern, missing all the good tones. But why? Why did it sound like that? Can someone tell me why it works but doesn't work? What the hell is going on? So here it is. Here we have the 1, the 4, and the 5, where the root positions, the tonal gravity is going to be going for each chord. We have to know this. We want to know this. The 1 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord are going to originate, and these are their originating root notes. Now, the magic trick and why they said that one pentatonic would work is because all these, even though these are changing keys, there's certain keys that are very close together, and these keys are I'm hearing some crackling and popping, so I know my computer's acting up at that moment. Anyways, so that being said, there's they share, some scales share a lot of notes, 6 notes, 5 notes, whatever. So in this case, since they're sharing 6 notes, you're going to always have a pentatonic framework available over every chord, matching. So that's why that worked. But here's the real reason it worked. You were playing intervals based on every chord, but here's the reason it didn't work, because these were the bland intervals. So in other words, for the 1 chord, I played a 2, a 4, a 5, a 6, and a 1, and repeat. So 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. So a 1 gave me, yep, I'm playing the root of the chord. That's awesome. The 2, nice, decent step, kind of bland. The 4, kind of a bland choice, a very, get back to normal kind of interval. It's got its own unique, sound thing that it does against a root. And so, yeah, it's just like a yeah, no, but also even if we could avoid that note, that would be great. And we've got the 5, that's very congruent with the 1, and the 6, another tastier note, cool. That's probably what gives it its somewhat passability there. But without any other context, without the 7 to play with, it kind of loses its sparkle a bit. It doesn't really shine. So you've got this kind of empty shell that works but is boring. Now, what happens over the 4 chord? Well, we get the 6, the 1, the 2, the 3, 2, 3, 5, 6. So nearly the same thing again. However, different notes are different intervals. That's where, you're saying, how could that be? The chord changed. Everything should have changed. Well, yeah. But you can see how it works. I hope. So like 6, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, and repeat. Boring. The 3 is there, cool. Basically the 1, 3, 5 is there, your triad, with a 2 and a 6, kind of out in the blue. Same with the 5 chord. Now we've got a 5, the flat 7, not a bad choice. We got the 1, okay, so that keeps us, sounding legitimate. The 2s kind of doesn't have a 3 to kind of go to. It's jumping to the 4. So now we've got 2 steps that are kind of out in the blue, and then we're getting back to a 5, which is a very congruent step. So there's a boredom, there's an insideness, there's a meh, right? That's where this meh comes from on this pentatonic run. Let's go back here and see what's really going on. So on one hand, we can look at this like, we can think about like a ratcheting scale that ratchets up and down this laterally, or vertically on our guitar. So if we take a look at how 1-4-5 works on the guitar, like for example, right here, even I could just type it right there. If you consider like the 1 here, the 5 is above, the 4 is below. So whatever scale shape I was using really just needs to, this is telling me I can move to change chords, to change to the 4, I can move the exact same scale shape down, and to get back to the 1, move it, ratchet it back up, and then click it up 1 for the 5 and bring it back down for the 1, or going to the 4 and then back to the 5. So that's interesting, but it's sort of not anything. It's a little cumbersome to think that way. It's easier than that, but it's just cool to know that that's what's actually happening there. In case that jumped out at you, and you can see that here. If this is our one chord, our home chord shape, it's called a shape one or one chord shape. So we don't have to get confused with any scale names or modal names or anything that starts to throw people for a loop. Just call it one chord shape. That's it. And um, you can see that the squares there. For the going to the four chord, you can see the square is now up in the same place. You know, the pentatonic is in the same exact spot. We're all in this framework here, in this green framework. Um, it moves up one, and then here it moves down one, and it doesn't look like it, but that's because the B string is missing on the lowest B string. You don't have that on a 6-string guitar, but you can see it here where the B string is above the E string, and we've once again got the complete box there, all in this pattern. So in other words, we're moving simply from, it's this easy. So here's the pentatonic framework we're talking about in over A. So inside this box, in case it didn't record that, inside this box I've got, or I would have for the 5 chord or for the 4 chord. One of 3 scale shapes, all housed within the pentatonic. So what's actually going on there? Well, you can consider like these 2 notes here your tasty notes inside, but also like what gives it this even keel. We've got the lowest note in the lowest box and the highest note in the highest box. What if we wanted a scale where we kind of lowered the high note a little bit to give it this one kind of sound? Yeah, that's what happens here. We lower one note and we've got this scale shape. Back to this concept, if we go the other direction and move this one up, we've got the note there. It's basically all you can do. You can swap this one there, you can swap this one there. You could do them both at the same time, and that's called melodic minor, not part of our program today. So if you just do one at a time, you get these 3 shapes that are related within one scale in other contexts. But today, we're kind of playing them parallel for those that makes sense to. But don't worry if that doesn't make sense to you. Anyways, just know these shapes. And now, you might say, oh man, well that's cool, but I can see why this is a trick. It locks you into one spot of the fretboard. But technically speaking, if you followed my scale advice on any lesson where I've rambled about it, you can see the squares, and those are the navigation squares. Look them up on my channel. They're tell you a million times on how to navigate the fretboard on your. So in essence, you got the whole fretboard available to you with each of these shapes because they all tell you where the navigation square has gone. The thing is, though, with blues, it's so quick with these changes, you don't really have time to worry about taking a half hour to noodle up and down the fretboard because you've got a couple of bars to do your thing. 4 bars is that, and then you're back to the other chord. So, only a few suggestions to make. And yeah. So that being said, I think you guys have hopefully got that. Oh, well, from there, now that you know the changes, you're going to want to know the roots and what the actual F is going on. So, excuse me. So you can see here, in the 1 chord here, first of all, you might think to yourself, man, Mark, I got a problem. Like, this is cool, but how am I going to know where all these intervals are during each chord? I forget, which one is the one? I don't have my ear developed yet to kind of totally know that. I'm good at guessing, but well, here's the deal. If you take a look at here, anytime there's a square, it's always the 3, 4, the 6, and the 7. Here, there's the square here. It's broken over the G and B string. It's 3, 4, 6, 7, or the full square in this shape, 3, 4, 6, 7. And, you know, notice also each one of these has two squares to navigate, to help you navigate through. Each one of them is 3, 4, 6, 7. This one, 3, 4, 6, 7, 3, 4, 6, 7, the 3, 4, 6, 7, 3, 4, 6, 7. That therefore means this is the 2 and the 5, blah, 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 blah. And you can see how all that works. As far as like knowing which interval is what while you're jamming. So we're jamming. So, and then, so basically that one note, when this goes to the 4 chord, everything is the same except that tan note is now what we play. Why the tan note? Because if you were playing the original note, you would be playing the major 7th, which is going to clash with the 4 chords flatted 7th. So that you can see why you do change to that shape over that chord. Makes total sense. Now, you know, at the moment the 5 chord comes, it's the same thing, but this time we've already got the flat 7th in the natural layout of our scale. So what we get by moving that note up is the major third, and we would be playing the minor third if we stayed there, which is, as you know, a possibility, especially over the 5 chord. So there was that, using that. So yeah, you know, flat 5 chord, as the 5 chord. Surely you can find a way to use that flat third in there and have fun with it, but that's up to you to experiment with. There's the I don't make any claims to that being the case, but I would definitely want to experiment with that next. The 5 chord, and yeah. So now let's play a little exercise that simplifies all of this so you can hear what all is actually going on. And so now how we talked about this little tan note here, the normal position of that note there, and then that note moves up there. So you could contain the changes of a 12-bar blues all in this tiny little square. So let's check that out. So here I've got it highlighted here. You want to think about these 4 note shapes as your noodle zone during each chord. Now, if it gets boring, you can add in any of the green notes on the one side, or go to any of the, I put them right here, these 2 notes on the edge are good stepping stone notes, will provide you with something. So, as you can see here, it would be, you know, going from a 4 to a 5, a 1 to a 2, a flat 7 to a, you know, whatever the chord is of the moment, whatever. So let's hear it and hear how it goes. So dominant blues in G, 4, 1, play it a little faster, of course. 5 chord, and here we go. G, 4 chord, 4 chord to the 4 chord, to the G, 5 chord. All right, so, you know, I'm sparing when I see that 4. I don't have to, well, yeah, you have to worry about, or kind of conceptualize that 4 in every noodle zone over every chord, because there's one there. But, so you can hear I might go flat 7, 1, 3 when the chord comes up to really ring those inside notes out. Then I might go to the, to give it that little, to give it its own voice, to make it do its own little cry in there. At the end there, I just did my tritone trick, and you can see how that kind of works, where there's that thing they show you where you can play it. The tritone is basically here on the G chord, and it's a half step down from the 4 chord and a half step up from the G chord up for the 5 chord. So it's like this weird, and you're like, how does that fit into the major blues? But apparently it does. So, yeah, I'm going to leave you with that. And hopefully all the lesson worked out with the volume and it didn't cut out where I think it did. And we'll go from there. Hopefully this is shorter than my last one, so that'll be good too. And the tip jar down below, because if I can get 100 subscribers or people that watch this lesson that go, hey, $15 is a good price for a month of lessons, to throw me that in the tip jar, I could and would, if that was the case, if a full 100 people every month did a $15 like tip or pledge per se, because maybe I'll switch this over to Patreon, I would be able to do a live 5-hour live session 3 days a week and one full video every week or thereabouts. That would be my promise to my audience. And I think that's pretty awesome. That'd be a lot of learning and a lot of something to go to every day. If you can't make it one time a week, there would be one that you can get for people in other time zones in other parts of the world. And so I'll leave you with that. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. You guys are awesome. And yeah, let's look forward to more. There's plenty more where this came from. And see you soon. Mind's Eye Visual Guitar. Tell your friends.